Welcome to my story channel. This is the first story I recorded, and what more appropriate way to start than by giving poor service to two topics I'm fascinated by: bicycling and the legends of King Arthur. Putting a story like this together involves writing the story, recording it, finding appropriate imagery, and assembling it in a way which hopefully does not result in physical illness among the viewers. I feel I am well on the way to achieving this lofty goal. Though with my talents, it's a stretch. A special thank you to my wife Debbie, who did the female vocals and saved you all from my incredibly creepy attempt at doing female voices. Whether you like this or not, I would appreciate your comments. And if you subscribe, I will promise you a wide variety of fantasy stories, some of which might accidentally be decent. Now, without further ado, let the torture begin. A legendary ride. I looked upon her and thought only of the night before, the smoothness of her skin, the softness of her lips, the unspoken invitation of her caresses. Laurie had been all femininity, and she set me on fire. Desire and alcohol feeding her already considerable attractions. I would finally have her for my own. Then she showed me to her couch, where I had not slept at all as I picked through the pieces of my life. I dreamed of fast cars, beautiful women fawning over me, and a lavish apartment, all built on the glorious promise of my bachelor's in philosophy, graduating 1000th in a class of 1500. Riches were to be my fate, rather than passing time as a barely employed barista, chasing a girl whose disappointment shrouded every moment we spent together. I finished the beer in her refrigerator and face-planted on her couch.
Get up! You'll be late for work!
Her voice had been more musical the night before. Now there was a definite whining edge that tossed the pounding in my head like a ring thrown over a cliff.
Come on, Brew. Get moving.
Oh, just let me sleep a little longer. She stomped away as the pain pounded me. Bile simmered in my throat and stomach, lacking the mercy to spew forth, choosing instead to continue torturing me from within. I heard clinking in the kitchen and sealed my eyes as the stomping grew louder. The ice cubes hit me like a cat of nine tails. Oh, Laurie, stop it already. Why are you being so mean?
Brew, you're not going to lose your job. Or is that what you want to be, a loser? Well, you aren't even making it back to the couch, if that's all you want. You've got big dreams, but dreams don't make car payments.
Ouch.
Brew, you're too smart to let your life fade away into nothing. I can see magic when I look into your eyes. Something just sparkles there, but you're close to losing everything. I want to be with you. I love the way you dream, but you just don't follow through. Turn the corner, or I need to find a new boyfriend. Get your act together, or go be a loser someplace else.
I slipped on my clothes, grabbed my bag, and hopped on the bike I'd ridden since the bank took the car away. Ken would fire me if I was late again. The job was as fun as kissing a rhino, but it was all I had. Put everything together, and I owned half as much as I owed. My part-time salary didn't pay the bills, but what are you going to do other than charge forward and hope to catch a break? The day was cold and dismal, and I was stuck pedaling to Starbucks. There was a clean barista outfit in my backpack, and I was 20 minutes away from work with 15 minutes until the start of my shift. But hey, at least the road was slick to round out the fun. I rounded the top of a hill, preparing to pick up speed, expecting the thrill of my best cycling as I dove downhill, wet road or not. Then the creature materialized before me. It stood about 3 feet tall, covered by feathers and fur in splotches. Some spots shone bright red, some yellow, with a little turquoise thrown in for good measure. There were feathers and fur in each color, and the creature sported a distinct bill. The eyes were the strangest things, yellow with red sunburst exploding from burgundy irises. It was standing with outstretched limbs in the middle of the bike lane. The limbs did not have hands or claws, but resembled wings too short for flight. It was like a psychedelic dodo bird. I had a second to either stop or hit it and go flying off my bike. likely breaking a bone or five. Alternatively, I could have swerved into traffic and been done with it. I blundered into stopping. As soon as I stopped, it ran behind me and jumped on. It wrapped itself around me, and there was a softness and warmth to its grasp. It smelled like a perfume counter. In that second, the creature became a she. And that reminded me of what I wanted Laurie to be, submissive and supportive. Was that what I should be after? No time to think that through. And the oddest thing, my head cleared as if the hangover decided to go find another body to torture. Hey, get off already, I'll be late. The creature made a noise, which may have been speech. A high soprano.
Orca! Orca!
That's what I called her, Orca. Orca confused me, but I had no time to waste unraveling her puzzle. I continued and found her little burden, barely noticing the weight as I flew downhill, cycling to a place where I would turn right. A quick glance at my watch told me I had 5 minutes to reach Starbucks with 3 miles to go. No problem at all for the winner of the Tour de France on a bike worth $25,000 more than the one I rode.
Orca! Orca!
She said, gesturing forward with her left wing. I turned to the left and prepared to cross the road to continue to my job. I wanted the creature to leave me.
Orca! Orca!
Pain burst in my head and a gale pushed me in the direction Orca gestured. When I tried to continue across the street, the monster threw me off balance and I fell to the ground in a heap. I looked back at those sunburst eyes. What are you doing?
Orca! Orca!
I can't lose my job. Let me go.
Orca! Orca!
I argued until the watch told me I was already late. Part of me wanted to just go home and enjoy the last week in my apartment before they tossed me out. But curiosity got the better of me, so I continued straight. Within half a mile, Orca slapped the right side of my head and pointed right. There was a dirty trail I hadn't noticed before. It would be a bumpy ride, and I found myself happy that I bought a mountain bike rather than the sleek street racer I'd prefer but couldn't afford. With curiosity still overriding any semblance of common sense, I bounced down the trail. Adventure stirred. This was more interesting than riding back home, packing my bags and calling Laurie, who'd cuss me and dump me. That could wait. I was in an unknown place. The trail soon left suburbia and changed to rural woodlands. I pedaled through forest, and within a mile of the tree line, a stone arch appeared before me. The arch looked like the rocky bridges seen along country roads, but there wasn't a road above it. The underpass had depth, and I noticed that the interior became foggy within a few feet, just like my mind had been before Orca jumped behind me. I wanted to ride through and see what I discovered. I hadn't heard of this before, and someone definitely would have mentioned us. Heck, there'd be a road leading down here with a ticket booth, along with a few bars to cash in on the tourist business. Prudence said I should be careful here. Orca had no interest in Prudence. She jumped off and pushed me from behind emphatically. Well, why not? My life was a total wreck. Even if I kept the job, it wouldn't pay my bills. Each time I talked to Laurie, we fought, and she made it clear I wasn't good enough for her. She'd neither bed me nor wed me until I made a success of myself. I wanted to take her in my arms and make love to her. But I didn't want to talk to her. There was no way to know what lay beyond the arch, but likely nothing worse than my current life. So I moved forward. Orca boarded behind me, and we plowed through the archway. As I crept along the trail, the fog's color developed variety. Along with the gray, there was a shimmering bright green, crimson, and royal purple. Soon I sensed I was falling. Never a good thing on a bike. I threw out my hands and legs before noticing I stayed in the saddle and remained upright throughout the swirling drop.
Orca!
Well, how could you argue with that? The air was crisp, had an edge of coldness to it, and smelled like a campfire. Somehow this idiotic grin plastered itself on my face, and I let out an "Orca" of my own. For no good reason. I started pumping the pedals as fast as I could. Maybe I was just caught up in the moment and letting myself go, but it turned out to be a good idea when the ground reappeared underneath us and we rolled forward. We were in the woodlands, and it was pitch dark, save for the full moon and more stars overhead than I'd ever imagined. Oh, that was cool, but I had nothing to eat, and this didn't look promising. Orca remained silent as I turned around. However, I saw no arch, just dark woods along the trail. My eyes met Orca's, and she gave me a slight nod and pointed for me to turn back around. Nothing for it but to travel on, so I reversed, switched on my headlight, and set it to the lowest power. I saw little point to the tail or the wheel lights, and I'd had a hunch that I'd best preserve my batteries. The trail had changed, had broadened, becoming more of a road. Probably a good one once, but the thoroughfare appeared to have seen many years of wear and tear with little maintenance. As a result, the stones were uneven, and it was bumpy. At least my mountain bike had springs to absorb the shock. Well, part of the shock. Within a kilometer, I passed a smattering of log huts with thatched roofs. There was no evidence of movement within the buildings. When I dismounted to inspect one, Orca tried to block me, but I wanted to look inside and pushed past her. This time she let me go. The building was empty. Here and there, straw pads lay on the floor, and crude tables and chairs, most of them broken. Blood-stained furniture and straw. No sign of any toilets, sink, or modern appliances, but there were human bones. Then I spotted a smashed skull in the corner. What had I gotten myself into? I sprinted to the bike and soared onto it, pile driving the right pedal, accelerating as my feet circled. I risked a look back at the hut when the bike dropped into a rut and I fell, smashing my right side into the dirt and bouncing my head off a rock. My helmet was my new, and maybe only, good luck charm.
Orca! Orca! Orca!
I was dazed and there were cuts along my arms and legs. Orca embraced me, rubbing its wings along my body. The cuts vanished as the wings passed. Then she stroked my head and the numbness receded.
Orca?
She said. Sure, Orca, I replied, thinking that I wanted to do something for her after she fixed my hangover, tried to stop me from going in the hut, and healed me after the accident. Well, I suppose I was following her on this crazy adventure. Hopefully in the end, I'd be able to do something to help pay her back. The bike had thrown its chain and was ground into the muddy trail. I cleaned it, reapplied lubricant, and threaded it back in place. Finally, the two of us remounted and continued forward. As we did, wolves howled behind us and owls called into the night skies. It was probably 5 kilometers past the archway when we reached a wooden wall with a gate in it and a man beside the gate. He dressed in the tunic and had a 2-meter-long spear to complete the outfit. I'd have been petrified if he hadn't stared at me with an open mouth and blinking eyes. Again, Orca urged me. I'd better move before the man closed his mouth and embedded that spear in something unfortunate, like my heart, or worse, my front tire. Aunt, nothing comes in from the country at night, not since the king died. Tell me who goes there. I hit it. I flew past the stunned guard and into the city. To his credit, the soldier recovered quickly and hurled his spear. Orca pivoted on the seat. There was a sudden breeze and the spear passed safely by my left side. I found myself developing a strong affection for flightless birds. The guard yelled, though the words were unclear. There was no doubt the alarm had been sounded. As I shot into town, I picked up the pace and put everything into the peddling. The guard was soon well behind me, and I had time to observe my surroundings. The sight slowed me. This city was a historical wonderland. The buildings rose 1, 2, or 3 stories high, made of gray and brown stone, stacked together with no mortar. Ivy grew along the sides of many of the buildings. The timber doors had iron latches rather than knobs. Some doorways had no doors, but were instead covered with what appeared to be bearskins. There were far fewer windows than in Pittsburgh, and no sign of glass. Windows were covered with animal skins. Wooden shutters are left open. These uncovered windows, in my headlight, supplied barely enough illumination to see. The roofs used wooden shingles. No visible electronic wires, and it smelled like a sewer everywhere. I steered around the brown puddles pooled under the windows and pondered the big question. Where would I charge my cell phone? The road roughened as I cycled into town, probably because of greater use. After a few minutes, Orca gestured left. I turned and found myself on the edge of a broad open area, and in the middle of that opening lay something unexpected. In the middle of the courtyard stood a stone with a sword embedded in it. This rang a bell. Orca gestured unnecessarily toward it. There was no force known to humanity that would keep me away from that sword. I parked my bike beside the stone, and Orca was outlined on the stone's base. Orca put on a little play. She kept pantomiming people trying to pull the sword out of the stone and being unable to. I had to try pulling, but it didn't budge. I stared at it and wondered if a little modern technology might be useful. If this was Excalibur, the legendary sword in the stone, it was held in by magic and maybe nothing could budge it save for Arthur. But maybe magic paid heed to chemistry. I retrieved lubricant from my backpack and applied a generous portion around the blade, waited a few seconds and worked it. It was loosening, but it was still stuck. I gradually put in more and more lube until it slid free. Well, that was one mystery solved. I stared at the sword, admiring the way the moonlight sparkled around the blade. This was Excalibur, the sword of legend. It could make me king of England, giving me power and wealth. I could be remembered in myth and history.
Orca!
I stared at the blade and imagined myself knitting England together, enjoying the courtship of beautiful damsels throughout the land, drinking in the company of warriors, leading knights to mighty exploits, with an entire kingdom to do my will. I would be a hero.
Orca!
Or would I be? Wouldn't I still be me, Brew, the loser? Did I have any business leading anyone? Moonlight glimmered off the blade and flashed at me. Did I really want to be king?
Orca!
Or did I want to find something to give myself to and serve? A quest of my own to find meaning in the vicissitudes of life. Maybe whether I won or lost didn't make that much difference, as long as I strove for the right goals. I didn't know what those goals would be, but I was sure that being king of the Britons wasn't one of them. Besides, the plumbing here was terrible. I slid the sword back into the stone.
Orca!
She pointed back toward the gate, and leaving town seemed the best plan. I even had a dim hope I'd find the archway waiting for me. Probably lubing the sword completed this quest. It turned out the adventure would outlast my life. Yells and screams rang out as I was halfway across the courtyard. A crowd charged from the two-story building across the yard. Some waving fists, others clubs, and many mugs spilling the locals' finest in their way. Most were dressed commonly, but a few wore tunics with heraldry, eagles, owls, bears, and even a chipmunk. One of these men carried a long sword and a tunic with a golden falcon emblazoned on a green background. Anger filled his eyes as he waved the sword in the air. There was a boy sprinting in front of everyone else. He looked at the sword, then toward me, and he gazed over my shoulder at Orca. "Blimey, it's the guardian of the realm," the boy said. Orca pointed toward the sandy-haired youth, then at the sword and made a lifting gesture. She all but flew off my bike as she motioned with her wings. The boy reached down, grabbed the sword, and pulled it free. Joy washed over his face as he pointed skyward toward the moon. Not that long ago, I'd known just how he felt. Everyone in the crowd went to their knees, prostrating to the young boy, who I presumed to be Arthur Pendragon. I was oddly self-satisfied at my part in his success. Then the man with the falcon heraldry thrust his sword toward me and yelled, "Get the knave!" The crowd charged. I split. I was sure my feathered friend was with me and raced to the gate, nearly losing my tongue as we bounced over the uneven stones. The houses seemed a lot less quaint, with people leaning out the windows to spy on us. An old lady screamed,
"It's a monster!"
and hurled a frying pan at me. That was the cue for a barrage of food and utensils that pelleted me all the way back to the gate. When I got there, the points of half a dozen spears met me. When I turned back, the crowd from the courtyard closed on me. Then the terrible thing happened. Orca disappeared. But as she did, I had a flicker of an alternate reality as she turned into a beautiful blonde-haired woman dressed in a tunic rising out of calm waters. The lady smiled at me for less than a second. Somehow that illusion, for whatever else could it be, leaned across and kissed me on the lips. Sparkly flowed through me. My entire body tingled as if it had received a jolt of electricity. A very pleasant jolt of electricity. Then Orca vanished, and I was alone, other than the 100 people pointing weapons at me. Britons surrounded me as I recovered. The crowd herded me to Arthur and forced me to my knees. 4 enormous men held me. One put a dagger across my throat. Spearheads pecked at my back. A dagger nicked my shoulder blade. "Hold!" commanded the man with the falcon heraldry. He flourished his sword before flicking the blade away from my throat. "Unless one of you wishes to feel my sword, you will await the king's justice." "No, Sir Kay, we don't mean no disrespect. Just securing the prisoner, we is." Arthur pushed through the crowd. "Get your stick. Let me through." He looked at me and said, "What the—" Then he stopped, looked skyward, and took a deep breath. "What manner of wizard be ye? Be ye evil conjurer, or be ye a godly man?" All the legends spoke of Arthur's wisdom, and I hope they were right. "Your Majesty, I am good, but all men believe they are good." "Uh-huh," said the future king, then taking another breath. "Do ye have a way to prove thy worthiness?" I thought for a moment, lost in the wastelands of philosophy and the query's urgency. How could I prove myself worthy to a Dark Ages king, even one as exceptional as Arthur? For that matter, wouldn't Arthur see right through me to the wastrel I'd always been? "Answer the king," said Kay. A group of men were pushing their way forward, wearing fine tunics with different heraldry on them. Here an eagle, there a swamp rat. Different heights, girths, and hair colors, but what they all had in common was swords. Nice, sharp swords. "You have seen that I can move with speed, and I bring that gift to you," I said, gesturing at my bike. "But is that from heaven or hell?" Arthur said. "They say the devil be quicker than the fastest steed." How could I hope to show that I was for heaven? A failure like me, who'd barely stumbled through college, bounced around jobs, and couldn't hold on at Starbucks, didn't seem like any sort of God-given gift. Honestly, I was a drunk who treated girls like trash and skated by and lied. How could I be a gift from heaven? But I wasn't from the devil, and Orca wasn't a demon. Kay's face turned grim, sporting an executioner's frown. He shifted forward, within shoulder reach of my neck. When he did this, the moon peeked out from behind his head, and inspiration slapped me. "Ah, wisely said. I bring you something else, something the forces of darkness would never bring to you. Behold lights to ward against the night." I showed Arthur my headlight, tail light, wheel lights, every light the bike had. Tingling flowed through my body again, and the lights blazed, far brighter than ever before, enough to illuminate the entire street. I warned Arthur that, like most gifts, these were only temporary. But I wondered, did I perhaps have powers here that I lacked in Pennsylvania? The crowd murmured in appreciative superstition. Arthur examined each. The king took another deep breath and smiled a smile that would charm many a heart. It lit mine on fire. "Wow!" which he covered with a cough. "These are useful and truly godly gifts. What be thy name?" This was a problem. It wasn't clear what the Britons recalled of Rome, but there was a good chance they remembered Caesar with admiration, and the rest of it would tangle their tongues. "I'm not sure you could pronounce it." The king nodded and said, "I can see you are from a foreign land, and this does not surprise me, but I must have a name." I started to say Brill, but the moment captured me. I held a bike light with the power of a searchlight. The tingling still ran through me, certainly a gift from the guardian of the realm. And I was here with Arthur, a dozen other knights, and Sir Kay. My eyes fell on Kay's tunic, and I knew there was only one name I wanted, and it was not Brutus Schwarzkowitz. "Call me Merlin." I looked forward to a lifetime adventure, forging a just realm with this fine boy, and finding some magic of my own. And the first magic I was going to conjure was a flushable toilet. Thank you for listening to my story. Bless you. May all your travels lead you through adventures before bringing you back to your heart's fondest home. God bless. Have a great day.